Hey, what's going on, you degenerates of the lesser internet? Welcome back to my game. No, that's my main channel. Welcome back to my off-topic channel where I talk about all sorts of weird, crazy, stupid shit. Emphasis on the stupid. Part 2. This is part 2 of my accidental child abuse video. My first video didn't go viral, thank God. I didn't get any feedback at all, actually. And that's just the way I like it. What? Can you guys hear that? Say it again. He's being so cute right now. Pt2, he's running around with his nosy. He's a little stuffed animal. He likes to carry around with him. This is hard. This is hard for me. Genuinely, it's hard for me. I don't know what to say. I kind of owed it to, you guys and, myself mostly, to talk about this thing. I don't think really talked about it before. It's just rough, and I don't really know what to make of it. Alright, in my first video, I think I titled it like Accidental Child Abuse, and I talked about how my aunt abused me as a child in a particular incident. She she pulled my pants down in front of a friend when I was, I think, like 4 or 5, and she didn't spank me, she beat me. She fucking beat me. She did it in secret. She didn't tell my mother or, anyone else. And she overreacted in a situation that she didn't understand, and she didn't ask any questions, and it was a fucked up situation, and I've always remembered it and thought about it. And I confronted her about it a couple weeks ago, actually. And it wasn't a very good experience. She deflected, didn't take any responsibility. I made her feel uncomfortable, and we were actually out for a walk. We were taking a walk, and she cut the walk short and dropped me off at home earlier than usual because of it. And it's unfortunate. But there was another incident, a second incident. And I'm going to talk about that here in part 2. So if you missed part 1, and oh, look at him. Look at him. He's so cute. He just turned 2 a couple days ago. His birthday was... I don't remember when his birthday was. Like May 5th or something like that? April 5th? I don't remember. I've had so many animals come and go, I can't remember their birthdays and shit anymore. This is literally my 5th cat since I was an adult. I just can't keep up. They come and they go. I mean, I love them. I fell in love with this one faster than any of my others. Yeah, I did. Because you're a little cutie. You want to come up here? Yeah, I fell in love with him like the second day we got him. I was like holding him and telling him I love him and stuff. Usually it takes about a week, maybe longer, for me to come around, because at that moment, nothing clicks in yet. It's like, okay, you're just a new kitten. Like, you're cute and all, but whatever. It doesn't really sink home that they're mine and I have to take care of them. But like day 2, I just fell in love with this guy. Because he's so fucking cute! Come here, you! Look at him. I don't know if the audio could pick it up, but he's been yelling and screaming at me. It's because he wants attention, and I decided to film right now. You want to give me a kissy? Oh, I'm filming. I'm filming. You want to give my head a kiss? I'm going to give my head a kiss. There you go. That bald spot a kiss. Alright, enough about enough about Lakitu. So, in my last video, if you haven't watched it, I recommend watching it. I kind of break into all this. And yeah, I did it last time, and I'm going to do it this time too. I'm going to ramble, and I'm going to say, and stutter a lot. Probably searching for my feelings and picking my wordage. This is tough. This is tough. I don't really know what to... I haven't really expressed it to anyone. I've told a couple of people, but I didn't really sit down and talk it all through. And the hardest part about it all is she's not sorry. In her eyes, she didn't do anything wrong. And it sucks. And I don't hate her for it. I just kind of feel sorry for her, and, you know, this was years ago. This was 30, 35 years ago. And she really hasn't changed as a person since then. She's still the same overreactive, overcorrecting, overbearing, crazy person who, you know, there's no negotiating or talking with her. And if you try to, and even in the most delicate way, like I did, like I mentioned in my last video, she completely clammed up, didn't take any responsibility, changed the subject, got uncomfortable, and then took my ass home. Well, I'm not going to bring that shit up again. But, it is what it is. So let's get into it. What is that time at the cabin? What happened there? Who was sticking their fingers in who got their dick cut off? What happened there? What fucking happened at the cabin? The cabin is a family home that my grandmother, on my mother's side, my grandmother and my grandfather bought very early on in their marriage. My grandmother got married at, I think, 16. 'Cause, yeah. And she got married to a 21-year-old, or 22-year-old at the time. Don't really remember. I get it. It was a different time back then. It's what you did. But, like, the way that marriage worked... I know I'm talking about my family. I'm talking about my grandma. My grandmother is still alive and kicking. She's in her late 80s. And she has dementia. I don't know if it's technically Alzheimer's or just dementia or whatever, but it's not looking good. It's gotten worse and worse over the years. It's been a slow burn. It's been a slow burn. She had the early onset of this stuff when I was still living with her. When I moved my then girlfriend in, now wife, when I moved her in, you know, in my place, at her place, and all three of us were living in a condo together. You know, when we were first going out, like she had early onset then, and she got mean, like really, really fucking mean. And she's damaged goods, my grandmother. She, you know, because of her marriage and her divorce, she hates my grandfather. Absolutely hates him. Every time she'd get pissed at me, she would be like, you sound just like Ron. It's like, thanks, Grandma. But, you know, later in her life, you know, in those early onset days, she got super mean. Super duper mean. Not to sound like a fucking bitch or anything like that, but there were a couple of times where I cried. Like, she made me cry, like saying fucked up shit, like, you know, I always hated you, you know, just like my ex-husband, and then she would just, like, spill the beans on some shit, and be like, you know, I always hated how you did this and said that, and it's like, goddamn, Grandma, I'm your grandson, I thought you liked me. And no one likes me. But no, she was super mean back in those days, and then since then, she's gotten better. A lot of people with Alzheimer's do. I've heard this story before. where people would get Alzheimer's and they're like a dick their whole fucking life, and then they would completely like flip and be nice, and it weirds people out. She's one of those people. She was always kind of okay with me, even though there's a lot of questionable decisions, we'll say, that I wasn't really on board with, like sending me away to a group home at a young age. But that's a story for another time. Not to dive too deep into my family history, but you know, later in her onset dementia, she's gotten pretty bad, but at least she's nice. At least she's nice. She's pleasant to be around. But she bought the cabin as a second home, a vacation home, out on the lake here in Washington State. I'm not going to say which one, but it's one of the lakes in eastern Washington. Nice forest area. Big acres and acres of private property. And we had an old cabin there. Not once has it been, you know, renovated or redone or anything like that. It was like an old 1800s, like, hunter's lodge that, you know, never got refurbished. And there was no plumbing. I remember we would go up there for like a weekend, maybe a week. And, you know, every day we'd go down to the lake and we'd swim. And, you know, the girls would sunbathe. And the kids would play and explore in the acres of land we had. And we'd drive down to the town, and stock up on supplies. And there was no plumbing, so we always had to have ice barrels and buckets and stuff like that. It was fun. It was fun. We'd catch fish and then eat it at the grill. And we were probably breaking all sorts of laws, but it is what it was. It was like our family thing. When my grandparents got divorced, grandparents got divorced, they had to split up all their assets, and so neither of them wanted a reminder of the other one. Each of them was like, I don't want this cabin because, you know, I don't want any association with the memories with you. So fucking, you could have it. So none of them fought to keep it. Maybe there was an agreement, like if you give up your half, I'll give up my half. Maybe each of them didn't want the other one to have it. I don't know. But what ended up happening is my grandmother gave it to her 3 children, my mother and her 2 sisters. And my grandfather gave it to his brothers and sisters. He had like 6 brothers and sisters, and he gave it to all of them. And they all had kids, and, you know, some of them died, and they gave it to their kids. And then they had kids. So after, you know, by the time I came along, this was after the divorce, the cabin, the legendary cabin, it was split up like 30 different ways. I shit you not. And it was just a disaster of ownership. And eventually the ultimate fate of the cabin was one of my cousins, like a second cousin or something like that, who killed himself, by the way. He had terminal cancer, beat it, and then it came back with a vengeance, and he went out into the woods and videotaped him blowing his fucking head off in a fucking peace out video. But before all that, he went to battle legally with all the members of the family. Not my grandfather, my cousin, or my uncle, whatever. Extended family. I think I met them once at like some giant Thanksgiving meal one of the years, but he was in this giant legal battle. He was sending out paperwork to everyone, getting them to sign over their rights. And one of the more savvy members of our family, my other aunt. So my grandmother had 3 children, my mother and my 2 aunts. There's the crazy one, and then there's the other one. The other one, she lives in Montana now. She is the more savvy one. She got the paperwork, you know, she told me the story. Like he gave her the faxed her the paperwork and was like, yeah, could you sign some stuff or, you know, whatever. The because he was squatting up there at the time. He he didn't use it as a vacation home. He was squatting there, and there was some legal work that needed to be done or something or the other, and so he faxed over some paperwork to her and wanted her to sign it, and she actually read it, and it was a secret document that would sign her rights over to him. She was like, what the fuck is this? Trying to pull a fast one on me? What the hell are you doing? Ended up being this legal battle. What he wanted to do, he had already, because we had trees. It was acres and acres of land. It was forest land. And he sold the trees. He hired a company to come down and cut the trees down and sell off the timber, the lumber, to some company, and he made thousands of dollars. Straight the fuck up. And then he wanted to do it, and then our family caught on and told him to knock it off, and he went to battle with the rest of them. And he, don't ask me why, don't ask me how, but the judge deemed that, yeah, it's within his rights. You know, one guy who owns 1/30th of the fucking land gets to just, sell off the property and the assets and the timber there and make thousands of dollars and not give it to anyone else, even though everybody else wanted to keep the property. Like, it's bonkers. It's bonkers. But that is the ultimate fate of the cabin. It eventually got sold off. He made off with most of the money, and in the end, he blew his brains out. The property is now owned by some random couple. It's been stripped. It's just dead land now with no trees on it. They demolished the actual cabin, put like a motorhome on it or something like that, or so I'm told. But that is the ultimate fate of the cabin. This is probably going to be a long one. I'm going to unplug the phone. Don't need someone calling and shit interrupting me. So now that we've gone through that business, the history of the cabin, it was like a little vacation home. I have some good childhood memories there. Some good childhood memories. Not all of them were great. And I'm going to tell you a tale of one particular day. There were some times I remember just absolutely loving being up there. It was so fun. Every time I'd go up there, I would meet a new member of the family I've never seen before, and I'd play with their kids, or and it turns out that they were my uncle or cousin or niece or nephew or something like that. There was kids around my age. I'd play with them, and they'd have animals and dogs, and my family's always been an animal lover family. I know I have a bunch of cats. I'm not a cat person, and what I mean by that is I don't like cats more than dogs. I mean, I kind of do, I guess. I don't know, but I like them both. I love cats. I love dogs. I'm an animal person. I'm not a cat person. I'm not a dog person. I'm an animal person. So, just wanted to put that in perspective. I live in somewhat poverty in, a city in a condo where I'm not allowed to have dogs, so that's why I have cats. So. But yeah, dogs and good doggos, kids, and it was a good time. Every summer we'd go up there, and it was great. One particular day, one particular time, it was quite a disaster, and one of the reasons why it was a disaster was because it was my mother and my aunt as the adults. Usually it was all of us when we went up there. It was, my grandmother and her 3 kids, or or 2 of the 3 kids, especially after one of my aunts left and moved to Montana. But she was always there as the matriarch, keeping the peace. This particular time, no matriarch. It was just my mom and my aunt. This aunt in particular, so there's the three girls, right? My mom and her two sisters. Out of the three, one of them in particular fought with the other two. I mean, they all fought, but they all loved each other. One of them is the black sheep. And you could say the black sheep of the three of them is my mother, who's deceased, by the way. She passed away about 5 years ago. She's dead. Right? She looked like me. Look at me. Look at me about good old 10 years ago. Oh, man. I still look okay, right? Anyway, there's my mama. So, one could say my mom was the black sheep of the family. I don't think so. I think my aunt was the black sheep of that. They're all the black sheep. They all kind of did their own thing. But out of the three of them, there's one in particular that didn't get along with the other two. My mother and my aunt that moved to Montana, they get along fine. I mean, they fight, they argue, sure. But it's not this long-standing thing. When my aunt would come to town and visit everyone, she would always be happy to see my mom, and my mom would always be happy to see her. Lately, after my mom's passing, my grandmother with dementia, my aunt would come in from out of town, from Montana, and visit. And she would come to town to see her mom and to see me and to see, her nieces and nephews, me and my cousin, and her old friends and stuff like that. But she's not happy to see my two aunts. They are not happy to see each other. Because my aunt here in Washington, the one that stayed, the one who's taking care of my grandmother, she's fucking crazy. She fights with everyone. She's always got to be at odds with everyone. She's always got to have some sort of drama, some sort of permanent, outstanding, outlandish, overreaching craziness going on. There's always got to be some sort of megalomaniac dynamic going on where she's at odds with someone. Always. Always. There was the time where, and I'm talking with everyone. Like, her biggest ally is, probably her own daughter. And, man, I could tell you about some infighting there that, dwarfs anything else. Fighting with her own mom, her sisters. My point is she's not a very easy person to get along with. And she surrounds herself with people who just yes men and yes ma'am. Just people who just agree with everything that comes out of her mouth. Every time she gets bent on a situation, she expects her friends to come and rally by her side. There's been some, family gatherings and Thanksgivings and Christmases and stuff where she's fighting with people, me included sometimes, and, her guests and her friends that, she brings with, they feel the need to pick a side, even though, who the fuck are you, bro? And they always pick her side, and it's like, she doesn't have the type of friends who know how to stay out of shit. She has the type of friends she surrounds herself with that will take her side no matter what. That's just the type of person she is. So she's a troublemaker, is what I'm trying to say. And on this particular day up at the cabin, it was just my mom and my aunt. There was no one to keep them in line. And my aunt fought with my mom, fought with that sister of hers, more than she fought with the other sister of hers. So out of her two sisters, my aunt fought with my mother, that particular sister, more than anyone else. You would even say that they don't even like each other. And the two of them went out to eastern Washington, upstate, way out of the way of everyone else. No mom, no dad. And it was them. By themselves. With booze. And fuck it. How old was I at the time? She was about 3. So I think I was about 8 years old. So this was the early 90s. So like 1992, 1991-ish, something like that. Not just booze. There was drugs involved too. Let's be real. My family were drug addicts. My family were, maybe still are, drug addicts. You know, they came from the wild times. Cocaine all day, every day. And so, yeah. So there may have been some of that involved. So that's what the parental situation was up there. It was my mother and her sister, and they each had the 2 kids. Myself and my aunt had her kid, my cousin, who's younger than me. At the time, she was about 3, and I was about 8, 5 years older than her. And there was one other as well, or 2 others, I should say. There was another mother. Her name was Donna, and her kid, Katie, who was the same age as my cousin. So it was the 2 of them. They were like 3, and then I was, the 8-year-old boy. We were the only kids there, and it was the 3 adults, my mom, her sister, and then their friend. And it was business as usual. Everything was fine. Like I said, this is kind of difficult to talk about. If you saw my last story, I got the shit beat out of me for pretty much no reason, and I got a healthy dose of accusation on top of that, which didn't really mean much to me then, but grown up now, like, that never got addressed or squashed, and I take personal offense to that sort of thing. It's like I have this aunt who accused me of wrongdoing, and now what? She's cool with me? Like, I'm pretty sure she knows that I didn't do anything, but at least, can I hear you say it? Can I hear you say that? You don't even have to say you're sorry or apologize. Just say, like, look, I know that you're not like that. Like, that's all I need. That's all I want. So after that incident, a mere 3 years later, I was thrust into pretty much the same type of incident, the same type of thing, except this time it was way worse. I wasn't just playing doctor, playing show and tell with a neighbor friend. I was actually accused of touching. This was still, even though it was some years later, this was still like pre-puberty. Like, I was not... I know kids do weird shit, especially if they were abused. But, this was still pre-puberty. I never, I wasn't in my curious phase. I wasn't drawing lewd pictures or trying to sneak a peek at, someone's Playboy. I wasn't talking about this type of thing on the playground, not yet. And it just wasn't a thing, for me yet. It wasn't until I was like 10 years old that I started to go through puberty. I remember like talking about things with boys at school, and we'd love to use the word pussy a lot, and it wasn't until about 10 years old that I started to think about that sort of thing. So here I am at 8. I don't know what someone was expecting, but I never showed any signs of sexuality or anything like that at 8. So it's kind of a hard place to... It's getting a little hot in here. Getting nervous drinking hot fucking coffee. So I'm having a hard place to start the story because it started very abruptly. Very abruptly. So I'm just going to dive into it. Everything was fine. Everything was normal. Everything was cool. And I remember, not very vividly, but I do remember being indoors, being at, in the cabin. My mom and the other girl, Donna, the mother of the other little girl, my mother and Donna, they went to town. They took the car and they went off to town. And I was alone with my aunt. Surprise, surprise. This sort of shit always happens when I'm alone with her. Because I wonder if she caught wind of this beforehand. You know, if she knew about this, if she planned this, and she waited for my mother to leave. Because, like I said, it's always when, you know, everyone else is gone that she pulls some shit. And it sounded, you know, looking back on it, you know, it sounded very theatrical. But I remember being in the cabin, indoors. I don't remember what I was doing. And my aunt was outside on the porch. And she screamed. I kind of remember her screaming, "What? What?" Thinking back on it, it seemed theatrical. But she busted in the door and she grabbed me, yanked me outside, and beat the living shit out of me. I described the beating the first time in my last video that she gave me. I couldn't sit down for a week. I was swollen on my butt, and my legs, and my back. This was... I laughed, I joked that wasn't the beating of my lifetime. There was one other time. This is that one other time. This was about a half a tier, if not a full tier above that last time in terms of the beating. She did it twice. Beat the living shit out of me, pulled my pants down, spanked me. She spanked me. It was the first whooping. I don't know what to call it. It was a spanking, but it was also more than a spanking. It was a whooping. That first time, you know, 3 years prior at the house, was very embarrassing. It was very embarrassing. And she didn't talk to me. She didn't explain what she was doing or why she was doing it. She just beat the shit out of me. The length was maybe, I don't know, a minute, 60 seconds, which felt like a lifetime, but this time at the cabin, it was prolonged. It was prolonged. She didn't just spank me for 60 seconds, and then that was it. She fucking beat the shit out of me until her hand was hurting, and then, because I remember her fucking wiggling me around and her wiggling around because her hand hurt. She beat me so fucking hard, her hand and her arm hurt. I remember she had welts on her forearms. And then she would use her busted up hand to hold me and beat me with her other hand. And I remember the weird asymmetrical beating from her other hand because she's right-handed. You know, she would clap up weirdly. And she would miss and hit me in the back and shit. And this went on for minutes. And then she got tired. And I remember crying like I've never cried before. I've fallen down, skinned my knee, and fucking hit my head. Man, I remember I was about 5, and I had what was called a big wheel. It was a plastic trike. It had big, giant, gnarly. It was like it was like a tricycle, but you'd sit low to the floor and lean way back like a lowrider. And the whole thing was made of plastic. It had really thick plastic wheels. It couldn't tip over. It was a fucking beast, and it was called a big wheel. And I had that shit when I was 5. I was a little. It was made for kids a little bit smaller than 5. I was started to grow out of it, but it was still fun as fuck. I had my friend. He was riding it like downhill, and I would like sit on the back of it. He fucking hit a curb, and I went flying over, face first into the curb, knocked my fucking teeth out. Like, I had fucking big bloody messes. I remember I stepped on a nail before. Like, I've gotten hurt before as a kid. For the most part, I was a careful kid. I wasn't always, like, getting hurt and shit, but I've gotten hurt before, pretty badly. This was, you know, on another level. I remember thinking I was gonna die. I've never felt anything so painful. She beat the shit out of me. And then, you know, then she pulled me out of the house. I don't think she pulled me out of the house the second time, because I couldn't walk. She would have had to have dragged me. She did. She drugged me out of the bedroom area into the living room area and fucking beat me again. After I was all swollen and shit like that. I remember asking, what did I do? What did I do? Why are you doing this? What did I do? And her only response, I remember her like looking at me. She would go, get all up in my face all mean and shit like that, like with crazy eyes. And fucking say ominous, weird statements like, how dare you, and I can't believe you'd ever do that, or you make me sick. Shit that that's fucking rough shit for a fucking 8-year-old to hear. You make me sick. How dare you? You're going to hell when you die. I have no idea what the fuck she's talking about, you crazy bitch. Obviously, you could see where this is going. Did I touch anyone? Hell no. Hell fucking no. You know, like I said, this was pre-puberty. You know, I didn't have any sexual thoughts at 8 years old. I have never been abused, sexually, at least. I've never been sexually abused, ever. Although there was this one time where a bum put his hand on my leg, and it gave me a gross feeling. That was kind of a funny story. That could have ended badly, but nothing happened there. I've never been sexually abused. This was pre-puberty. I was 8 years old. I had no sexual thoughts at the time. There's nothing that would suggest, and I have no history of any weirdness either, except for, you know, one time where I got caught playing, you know, show and tell with a girl my own age. And it was just out of curiosity. It was consensual. No one was touching anyone. And, you know, I think that's pretty natural. Not saying it's good or something I endorse, but it is what it is. So she beat the fucking shit out of me, and I was crying in pain. And remember, I just ran into the bedroom and jumped on the bed, and I was like face down, crying in the pillow because I couldn't fucking move, and it hurt, man. And then she like drugged me out of the fucking bedroom and beat me again in the living room. That's about all I remember. I remember the time of day. I remember where the sun was. I remember the sun was coming down, and it was about it was about 7 o'clock at night, a couple hours before sundown. Sun was looming down. It wasn't, you know, like the sun in your face, not yet. It was still overhead, but it was getting there. I remember it was starting to get a little cold. And, you know, we were coming in from the lake. You know, at a certain time, you gotta come in, because the water just gets too cold. You're out there with your shirt off, and the mosquitoes start buzzing. It's time to come in. It was post that. And that's about all I remember. I remember about the time of day. I remember her theatrical yelling. I remember her beating the holy shit out of me. I remember it was prolonged. I remember not knowing what the fuck was going on. I remember the look on her fucking face and shit. And the kids were crying too, the little ones, my cousin and her friend. They were just bawling, and it must have been frightening and confusing for them too. And they felt bad for me. They felt so bad for me, because they didn't know what was going on either. There's more to that too. So this is all pretty traumatizing. And why would she do this? What prompted her, what information, what suspicions prompted her to just snap and beat the living fuck out of me? Obviously, she thought I was like molesting her daughter or something like that. But, you know, how did this come about? You know? And how this came about, the answer to that question is she grilled the kids when no one was around. She grilled them because something had to have been wrong. And I talked with my mother about this. Okay, I say I didn't really talk to anyone about this. I never had a therapeutic discussion about this. I never talked to a psychiatrist or a friend or my wife even. I told her the story, and she's like, yeah, that's pretty fucked up, but I never really talked to her and spilled my emotions and stuff. I never talked about it in length like I am right now. But I did talk to my mom about it. It was a little different, later in my mom's life, before she died, obviously. I've had this discussion with her a couple of times, and she's gleaned information from my aunt. She's gleaned information from my cousin. This isn't something I talk about with my aunt or my cousin. But my mother did. And my mother relayed, some of the information to me. Here's some of the information my mom relayed to me. My mom said that my aunt grilled her daughter. My aunt grilled my cousin for info. Just would get her alone and just ask her these crazy, what, did anyone do anything to you? Did anyone touch you? No, are you sure no one touched you? Okay, well, are you sure no one touched you? Okay, well, what do you mean by okay, well, just grill. Well, fishing, not just fishing, but just like implanting ideas. And my little cousin was like, no one touched me. What are you talking about? Okay, yeah, yeah, someone touched me. I don't know who touched me. Did someone's, no, yeah, I guess, yeah, just kept whittling away. Was it Turbo? Obviously my name's not Turbo, but no real names here, no first names. Did he touch you? And then as soon as she squeezed a yes out, I would assume that's where the what came from, and she beat the shit out of me. But my cousin fessed up the next day. My cousin fessed up the next day that I didn't do anything. Like, no, he didn't. Like, she figured out that I'm getting my ass whooped. At 3 years old, she figured out that I was getting my ass whooped because of something I did. And then she was like, she felt bad because she's the one that, said something. And when she realized that she was just, saying what her mom wanted to hear, we all know that kids get groomed by their parents. I mean, this is the reason why when there's an investigation going on, they don't let the parents in the room, because they will just say whatever the parent wants them to say. And, she fessed up that I didn't really do anything. Thank God she said something. I don't blame my cousin. I have a weird relationship with my cousin. She's kind of a, I don't know, more lighthearted issue. She's a SJW, like a real life one. Like one of those, the fucking no Trump woman. No! Like, she's one of those. All right? So she's got her own issues. we got her own thing. I was giving her details of the George Floyd trial. Telling her details that she didn't know. That she didn't want to hear. Oh, man. She freaked out. She's a lot like her mom in certain situations. But, we got our own problems and stuff. They're not serious. Just like culture issues and stuff like that. Difference of politics and stuff. But she never wanted to hurt me. She was always... I don't blame her. I don't blame my cousin. She was 3, for Christ's sake, I don't blame her for lying or anything. I know what her mom was like. Her mom pushed her into this to get some sort of answer. Obviously, my aunt was raped or molested around this time. Maybe younger, Could have going, I don't know. I really don't. She has insinuated as much on multiple occasions. Insinuated as much. Alright, that's a lie. I do know. I do know. I'm just... Even though we're not using real names here, I'm still trying to protect her and not reveal everything. But you know, I'm not gonna go into details. But yes, she was more than molested. We'll say more than molested. Happened at a party. She didn't tell me until, you know, way later in life, after I was an adult. I'm not saying she told me this recently, but, you know, after I was at least in my 20s, she said something to me in confidence. And then here I am on the internet spewing her personal shit. I'm just going to say that there was an incident. I'm not going to detail anything, you know? I'm trying to be I'm trying to be, you know, respectful there, you know. But anyone who knows her knows something's wrong. This isn't something you just talk about. But yeah, I knew. I fucking knew. And, you know, I know for sure. So this was a couple years. This was just a couple years afterwards. She obviously has issues and some lingering distrust, specifically with, you know, dudes. You know, couple that with her relationship with her father, my grandfather. My grandfather never touched her. I'm not insinuating my grandfather touched her, but my grandfather was a piece of shit. He treated my grandmother like shit, and my grandmother and, you know, some of her daughters, they hate men. They do. And my Christ, they took their baggage out on me. I was the only male on my mother's side, you know. I was the only male. Nobody else had any fucking boys. You know, all my uncles and male cousins, they're all on my grandfather's side. You know, twice, thrice removed. You know. I was the only one, and they took their fucking baggage out on me, and it wasn't fun. And, you know, I got a lot of stories up there. And the worst of them look like this. You know, me getting beat within the inch of my life and pretty much abused because, you know, there needs to be some evil rapist to take their fucking shit out on. There needs to be one. And my aunt has not had good relationships with men. She has a father who was a piece of shit. Never touched her. Not sexually. Never beat her. Anything like that. But that's another story for another time. You know, my grandfather, the piece of shit. That's the title of the video. Of a future video. But they got a weird relationship. A weird one. And her partners, she's never gotten married. She's never been in she's been in one long-term relationship. One relationship that lasted over a year. And that was it. She's fucking 60 now. I think she's like 58. She's going to be turning 60 here soon. She's never gotten married. She's never had a boyfriend for over a year. Except for this one time. And this one time, he was... I liked the guy. I liked him. But he was by definition abusive. The whole 9 yards. The whole 9 yards. The whole 9 yards. Black eyes. sexual abuse. Like he would get his dick wet when he wanted it to, when he wanted. The whole 9 yards. Cheating on her, smacking the shit out of her. And they were together for like 4 or 5 years. You know how they broke up? She woke up one day and he was just fucking gone. After all that, because he was... It's a one-sided story, and I don't believe all of it, but I do believe that he was abusive and a piece of shit. What I don't believe is it was all him. You know? They were a bad match, but he's just an example of the people that she, you know, that influenced her in her life. She woke up one day and his shit was fucking gone. Just bounced the fuck out. No note. No nothing. They had a plan to go somewhere. Like they were planning to go someone's birthday party or some shit like that. I don't remember. Or they had planned some sort of vacation, or I don't remember. They had planned something, and in the middle of the shit, she just woke up and just he wasn't in bed. He never came home from work. All of his shit in the house was gone, and he just fucking took off. She had no idea where he went. She tried talking to his friends and people that knew him. They had no idea where he went. He fucking bounced out to Canada. And like 4 or 5 years later, she, you know, heard through the grapevine, yeah, he's up in Canada, in Calgary. That threw her for a loop, because in her mind, he was the aggressor. He was the piece of shit. If anyone should have left, it should have been her. And he fucking was the one that was like, I'm out. Anyway, she's had not very good male influence in her life. So it's easy to see how she got to be the way she is. And boy, howdy, she... I feel bad saying this. I feel so guilty saying this, but I think I fucking hate her. I really do. And not because she beat the shit out of me, or she's always doing something insane or slimy, but I don't like how she treats other people around me. She loves my wife. She loves Stacy. I always joke with Stacy that if her and I ever got divorced, my family would go with her. Like my cousin, my aunt, my grandmother. They wouldn't talk to me anymore, and they would just talk to her. So my aunt loves Stacy. But I see things. I see glances and wordage here and there. And I'm trying to warn my wife, like, my aunt doesn't really love you. She doesn't really care about you. If you... My wife's kind of quiet. She's not really, you know, a shit talker or a shit starter. If they ever got into a disagreement on something serious, my aunt would snapjack her so fast, and they would be enemies, just like she does with everyone. Like I said, my aunt surrounds herself with people who agree with her all the fucking time. Even when there's some sort of minor dispute between me and my aunt, and my wife is there in the middle, my wife doesn't have my back. My wife has my back in our social circles. In public, you know? If there's some interloper fucking starting shit, my wife will say something. But on the inside circles with family matters and stuff, my wife doesn't like to pick sides. She's not about that life. And so she doesn't have my back when it comes to me squabbling with my family, you know? She is not the disruptor, you know, because then she would be the fucking bitch who's always got to open up her mouth and stick her fucking nose in everyone's business and be that person. My wife ain't that person. So I understand that, but my point is my wife never gotten in my aunt's way before. And I'm telling her, like, you know, I don't know if that day will ever come, but if it does, my aunt will unperson you in a heartbeat. That's the reason why I don't like her, I don't think. She could be a sweetheart. Like, after my mom died, my aunt was a sweetheart. She really was. And I think a lot of that is because she felt sorry for me. And sorry for how she treated my mother. She did not treat my mom, her sister, and me very well when my mom was alive, especially there towards the end. She unpersoned us, and I think she felt guilty about that. But she treats people around her like shit. She doesn't really surround herself with the best of people, but she's had friends who I viewed and felt like they were family. Auntie Karen. I know Karen, but before the Karen meme, Auntie Karen. Karen was the woman who reprimanded the kids in a educational way. The story the side story I told in my last video about in my last video. Not my last video about fucking the slap, but the one before that. Karen was the woman I was talking about at my wedding, who I was talking to. Auntie Karen and Auntie Charlene and Aunt Donna. All my mom and my aunt's friends. They were all around the same age. I considered them aunts and uncles. Aunt Carly. Uncle Mike. They're not blood relatives, but I considered them family, especially at a younger age. I can't honestly say there is one of them I consider close to anymore. Because they've all drifted off. One of two things happened. Either my aunt unpersoned them somewhere along the lines, they're not friends anymore, which is unfortunate, and I'm pretty sure is my aunt's fault. Or they are still close, but their friend, they don't consider me family anymore. Oh yeah, they're still close to my aunt, but they don't consider me a nephew anymore. Why? Well, I could only guess because they've chosen to unperson me just like my aunt has. And like I said, my aunt surrounds herself with people who are going to have her back, no matter what. And if my aunt is on the outs with me, which, my aunt, she could turn that on and off at a whim. I don't understand that. I can't just flip a switch and like someone one moment and then not like them the next moment. That's not in me to do it. My aunt could do that. So she's friends with other people who have that same switch, Uncle Bub. I've known Uncle Bub since I was so little. And while a lot of people have drifted off, Uncle Bub still is around. Best friends with my aunt, loves my cousin. Uncle Bub lives 2 blocks away. Right fucking up there. See my window right here? I can look out that window, look up the fucking hill, and see his goddamn house. I only see him like once every other year. I never know he's going to be there, and he's randomly there at a family gathering or a party or something like that. And when I see him, it's really fucking awkward. Like, oh, Bob, what's up? His name's Kevin. Hey! Yo, long time no see. What you doing? What are you up to? Oh, I got married. Oh, I heard you got married. Yay. I was so close with him when I was younger. He was my fucking uncle. He would take me places. Every time he would host a party and the whole family would go over there, and he would be invited every time we'd have Thanksgiving, and I'd see him all the time. Now I don't see him ever. And I just get this air from him that he just doesn't fucking like me. And that's fine, but just, I have friends. People like me. People do. I've had to fucking... I don't have tons of friends, and that's mostly my choice. I've had people try to, get a beer with me and hang out and stuff like that, and I turn them down. I think I'm busy that day. That's just who I am. I don't like to let people into my inner circle that much. But I know people fucking like me, and Bub, he, well, he's my aunt's friend. He's my aunt's best friend. I know where it comes from. I know where that shit comes from. I've met people. I've met people who I've heard about before. I've never seen them before. I've heard about them before. I know that, you know my aunt or you know my cousin. And I'll meet them for the first fucking time. I'll be shaking their hand. And they're like, oh, you're so-and-so's, friend or cousin or, whatever, right? And I'd be like, yeah. She's like, oh, Tom? No, Jason? I was like, no, I'm Turbo. And they're like, oh, you're Turbo, okay. And like I could see it on their face and hear it in their voice that my family be talking shit about me. Oh, watch out for Turbo, talking their shit. And when I'd meet them, they'd be like, oh, I've heard about you. It's not a good feeling. It's not a good fucking feeling. I have fun with it. I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, you heard about me, I'm sure, I'll eat your fucking dog, I'll kill your fucking kid, I'll fucking rape you or something. I don't know what bullshit you fucking heard. Ain't that a bitch? You know all about me. You know all about me, and I haven't even fucking met you. Ain't that a bitch? Well, what do you think? Am I as bad as they say? Am I horrible? But yeah, it's one of those things. That's the type of person she is. She really picks on people and unpersons them. She surrounds herself with people like Bub, complete. I like the guy, Uncle Bub, man. I don't got any ill will towards him, even though I know he avoids me. But he's never done anything to wrong me before. He doesn't. But he's a simp. He simps. Well, enough psychoanalyzing my damaged aunt. The story is not done yet. Been yammering for over an hour. I'm going to try to wrap this up here, but the story isn't done yet. Like I said, I'm going to be jumbling my words and taking my time. I really don't know what to feel. So, I'm sure you got questions. What are the logical questions here? It's a little hard for me on the inside looking out, but on the outside looking in, well, what did your fucking mom do? Did she know what was going on? No, my mom did not know what was fucking going on. Because my fucking aunt waited for, her and her friend to leave before she grilled, my cousin, before she fucking beat the shit out of me. She went in and fucking beat me a second time. Why? Before my mom came back. And the jig was up. Because she wasn't going to do it in front of her. Of course, I got welts all over my back and a whole bunch of shit. I don't remember the particulars here at all. Like it's a blank, but I can assume that I was moving funny, or it looked like my eyes were puffy because I was crying, and my mom was. It was time to eat, and I didn't want to eat or something. I don't know. But my mom obviously was like, "What the fuck is wrong? What's happened? Why don't you feel good?" Something like that, right? And I assumed she knew. I assumed she was part of it. I didn't know what was going on. It wasn't until I didn't even know what I was being accused of. I did not fucking know. I didn't know at the time of. It's not like the next day and, my cousin said, oh, well, he didn't do anything. I was just saying that. Like, I wasn't privy to that. It wasn't until years later, I think I was like 13 or 14 or something like that, and it got brought up again. And it was told to me. Like I said, my mom told me that my cousin, confessed that I didn't do anything, that she was just trying to make her mother happy, make my aunt happy. And this was relayed to me. I didn't know at the time of. At the time of, I thought they were all in on it. My father wasn't in the picture. Let's just leave it at that. I got stories and things to share, but for another day. But my father wasn't in the picture at this point of time. So there was a lot of... It was a community raising. My grandmother was the matriarch of the family. There was my mother, of course. And then my two aunts. And they took turns babysitting me and raising me and whatnot. It wasn't a traditional mother-father household. And it was not a singles mother's household. It was a community family household thing going on. And so, when it was time to watch over me, babysit me, reward me, give me treats, buy me presents, punish me, put me in timeout, it was a shared responsibility a lot of times. So when I would get an ass whooping or get put in timeout, I didn't always know where it was coming from. Sometimes my grandmother would find something I broke, get mad, yell at my mom to punish me, and then my mom would punish me. And I would have no idea. Sometimes my aunt would get me mad, chase me around the house, and punish me, and I wouldn't always know who the aggressor was or where it was coming from. Didn't always know. It was kind of a fucked up dynamic, I know. A little embarrassed to say as much, but I figured I should explain it to convey that I didn't always know where the punishment was coming from. I didn't always know what I did, or who I made mad, or if the person punishing me was doing it on order, or because they wanted to punish me. I didn't know if it was a group decision, or if it was kept a secret. I didn't know these things. So I was mostly left in the dark. And between all of members of my family, it's not just my aunt, but between all the members of my family, there was often no communication, no lesson to be learned, no rehabilitation, no explanation given. It was always, we're going to take this toy away from you. Well, you were going to go play at, so-and-so's house. Now you don't get to. Oh, you were looking forward to mac and cheese? Well, go to bed. You don't get dinner tonight. You, go to school. No dinner. You got to stay after school in detention because, whatever reason. Because I was bad, and so, my, household talked to the teachers to keep me after school for an extra hour. Some sort of punishment, or spanking, or beaten, or smacked across the mouth, or a shoe chucked at me, or something like that. There was never, not never, but rarely an explanation given. I didn't know if the shoe getting chucked at me was because I pissed off my mom, or I pissed off one of my aunts, or I pissed off the matriarch. I don't know. I don't ever know if it's on order. Like, oh, I don't want to fucking spank you, but I was told I gotta. Like, I didn't know a lot of times. I didn't. And so when this epic ass whooping was coming down on me, I got into a fight when I was 19. It was the most brutal fight I've been in. It was with a Samoan. And I held out for as long as I fucking could. Stay down, nigga! I wasn't gonna. I got my ass beat. That was nowhere near as bad as, that time when my aunt whooped the shit out of me when I was 8 years old. If I'm comparing the two, it wasn't. It hurt so much. I didn't know, she didn't explain anything to me. I didn't know I was getting punished. I didn't know what was going on. It was so that was the worst part. I didn't know what I did. So then she was saying mean shit. And it was rough. It was really rough. It was really rough. I was young and I didn't know why, and I was confused, and I thought I didn't feel like I did anything wrong. I felt like I was wrong. Like, I didn't feel like I, broke something. I felt like there was an egg, like my soul egg, like in my soul, and it was broken. Like, it wasn't something I did or something that wasn't done to me. I felt like it was broken. And it didn't matter whose fault it was just the way it is. Well, it's broken, fuck you. I felt like I felt like fucking shit. I wanted to kill myself. But I didn't know, I didn't know how to. Or I didn't know how to contemplate that. I didn't know what suicide meant at that time. So I couldn't put that into words or articulate it even in my own mind, but I did not want to be for, a lot of my youth. And since that day, when I was 8 years old, my life kind of steadily went downhill more and more until I was about 12, and I got sent away to a group home, and I lived with the state until I was 18 years of age. And I guess this was the beginning of the end for me. The beginning of the end of my childhood. I had a happy childhood. At least I perceived as much. I was happy. I had friends. I felt like I had a family that cared about me, and things were nice. I remember when my cousin was born, and there was a new member of the family, and she was like a sister to me. I cared for her and looked out after her. And then, this day at the cabin was a turning point, for my childhood and my life. I felt like things went down after that, and they continued to go down. And they continued. And, yeah. That was it. Most people, I don't know. Most people turn their lives around, feel better about themselves, or at least they, don't go through that shit until they're, a teenager. Yeah, this was the beginning of the end for me, where I felt, suicidal thoughts started happening before I even knew about suicide, and it sucked. It really sucked. So my mom found out, I think later on that night. Got a little off topic. Talking about some bullshit, some heavy stuff. This is rough for me. I'm a jackass. I'm say sensational things. I'm not trying to be an edgy boy when I say the weird shit I say. I just say it. I don't try to do anything. It's what I want to do at the time. It's how I feel. It's what I think. I'm not saying it's right all the time. I do and say wild shit, so taken aback a little bit, being serious, being a little emotional. It's just, like I said, haven't really talked about this and expressed this before. But anyway, off on that tangent, on to the next thing. My mom, so she found out, and the roughest part about that ordeal was what came afterwards that night. My mom found out and defended my honor and fought with my aunt. The two of them fist fought. And it was brutal. I wasn't out there in the living room, but I was in the next room watching. All the kids were there, me, my cousin, and Donna's daughter, who was the same age as my cousin. So they were both like 3 and I was 8, 5 years older than them. Yeah. The boy accused of molesting the girls. I wasn't just accused of molesting my cousin. I was also accused of touching, the two of them. Yeah, the boy accused of this was in a back room with the two of them by themselves. All by themselves. Does that make any sense to you? I think the telephone's ringing. It is. That's so weird. I got like satellite phone, like internet phone, and I could hear it buzzing, even though the phone isn't ringing. That's my cue. I've talked too much about this subject, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. I think I know who's calling. I'm gonna give him a call back. But my mom and my aunt fought, and I remember one of them tackling the other one like a football player, and them going flipping over a table, and everything on the table just breaking, glass everywhere. Picking up chairs, throwing them at each other, grabbing parts of the sink that didn't work because there's no plumbing there, throwing pots and pans at each other, like blooding each other up. I remember that being brutal, and I remember thinking it was all my fault. What did I do? My aunt was so pissed at me and so adamant. I remember the look on her face, And then there's my mom throwing fists, and the two of them getting bloodied, and I remember thinking, I shouldn't have said anything to my mom. Like, I didn't know my mom didn't know. And my mom was asking me, like, what happened and stuff like that. I assumed that she, like I said, I never knew where the punishments were coming from. I never knew who was punishing me. Sometimes I would be punished by someone else, but it was somebody else's arm doing the punishment. It was very confusing, so I didn't know if my aunt was punishing me or if my mom was punishing me. I didn't know if my mom knew or not. Apparently she didn't. Obviously she didn't. And my aunt would do this. She went behind everyone's back. In the last story, she went behind my mom's back this time, got caught. My mom fucking ripped into her. I'm not going to tell you who won that fight, because it's not important. Two sisters were fighting in a way that family shouldn't fight, I got a group of friends. They're Bosnian immigrants. Man, they are rough. They are fucking rough. And the two oldest brothers of the family, I'm best friends with one of them. My bestie. He's the second oldest son. Him and his brother, they both told me like that the worst, most epic fights they've ever been in was with each other. And I've always thought that you don't fight with family like that. I don't know, maybe I'm different because I was raised with, a bunch of women. And so I can't see a situation where I'm brawling with them like that. But my mom and my aunt, they were brawling like family shouldn't be. And it was a mess. So the other girl's mom, Donna, she never really said anything to me about anything. You know, she was never part of it. I don't think she bought any of it. I don't know. I really don't. That's kind of a mystery. Now that I'm thinking back on it all, I don't know. I don't know who I would ask or get into touch to. I don't know. I'm not going to fucking hunt her fucking down and ask her all this shit. Fun story, though. Fun story. The other girl, Donna's kid, she grew up, and she grew up. This was years ago. She's got to be, well, she's the same age as my cousin, so 35. She's like 35 now. But I remember back in the day, I hadn't seen her since she was, you know, that young. And I heard she, you know, went off to, she was a problematic child, and she went off to boot camp. Then she came back and got pregnant. But yeah. So they got into a brawl, and then the next morning, after it was all said and done, after my ass whoopings and after the brawls, in the next morning, my mom left. I don't remember where she went. She went to the store again, or maybe she went down to the lake by herself, or took a walk or something like that. Maybe she was going to the bathroom. We didn't have, like I said, no indoor plumbing at all. That means no sink. That also means no bathroom. We had to go out into the wood, and we had like a we didn't even have an outhouse. We had, this is ghetto as fuck. We had a dedicated place to shit in the woods. Like out back, there was like a trail that went around in this wooded area behind the house that was blocked off by trees, by like a row of trees, and you would go back there and shit. And there was shit everywhere. No holes. But like I said, we owned acres and acres of property. There's no indoor plumbing. What can you do? Well, I guess you could dig a fucking hole then, you fucking white piece of trash. So I don't know where my mom went. She could have been taking a shit, but the next morning, after all that, my aunt takes another swipe at me and beats my ass again for a third time. Holy shit, bitch. So she did it the third and final time. It wasn't a big one. It was a quick one. Beats my ass for a third time. My mom comes back, and it was like, oh my God, really? And then they go at it again. I kind of feel like, judging just the energy of the situation, I feel like my aunt wanted a reason to take her fear and anger out on something. She needed something in corporeal form that she could take it out on, and she chose to do it with someone smaller than herself that couldn't fight back, and a male. You know, she couldn't do it to any of her friends, her male friends. I mean, maybe she could, I don't know. But she took her anger and fear out on someone smaller than her, a male that was smaller than her, and she did that to me on more than one occasion. She was sneaky about it, and I feel like she did something, I feel like she knew she did wrong. Her definition of wrong is different from your definition of wrong, or my definition of wrong. She doesn't do things based off of right and wrong, because in her mind, whatever it is she chooses to do is the side of righteousness. If she doesn't want to break something because it would make someone sad, and you're not supposed to do that, that is the right choice. She is righteous in her choice. It has nothing to do with whether or not it's right or wrong, but everything to do with the fact that she chose not to break something. And she is righteous for doing so, for making that decision. Look how great she is. She's sparing the other person. She's compassionate. She thinks of other people. It's all based off of her decision. She often contradicts herself in her actions all the time. She does one thing and says the other. She will do something and go, well, this is what you're supposed to do. But she doesn't adhere to that principle when it comes to other things and other people. She will do the opposite, make the opposite choice. And it's like, hold on, I thought you said this is what you're supposed to do. I thought this is the code that you live by. Nope. What she chooses to do is the code she lives by. If she chooses to do something, that is the right choice because she has chosen to do it. If she chooses to do the opposite, never mind what she said before, if she chooses to do the opposite, that is the right choice. Even if she's wrong, she's right because that is what she has chosen to do. It's just her way of thinking is, like I said, she's gotten caught in that hypocrisy trap many a times. And I think she knows what she was doing is wrong. She just doesn't think that that definition of wrong... Fuck, I don't know. She knows she shouldn't have done what she did, otherwise she would have told my mom that she beat the shit out of, her fucking kid. She wouldn't have pulled that shit just 3 years later. She wouldn't have gone looking for fucking trouble. She wouldn't have had to lie and deceive. She wouldn't have to sneak in an extra fucking beating while my mom was away. She knew that she shouldn't have done what she fucking did. Because she tried to hide it like a cat hides its fucking shit. And she did. She tried to fucking hide it. She got away with it when I was 5. Didn't get away with it when I was 8. So she knows what she did was wrong. Did she apologize for it ever? No. It did get brought up, though, before. Years ago. I don't really remember. It was very brief. And I didn't confront her on it the way I confronted her the other day on, my beating when I was 5. But this got brought up. Don't remember how. But I do remember she confirmed, yeah, Brittany later. My cousin. Whoops. It's hard to call everyone aunt and uncle 2 and aunt 3 and grandma on this mom's side and dad's side and this, that, and the other. It's hard to fucking keep all that straight. And I'm not redoing my hour-and-a-half video just so I could scrub the name Brittany out of things, but my cousin, Brittany, my aunt did, confirm that, yeah, my cousin said to her later, that I was innocent, that I didn't do anything. And I think the reason why she said that was to clear my cousin of any wrongdoing. Because, like I said, she's very tribalistic with, her alliances. And so, on the subject, I mean, it's easy to put blame on my cousin, but I don't, really. Because my cousin was 3. Right? If she was like my own age, I'd probably harbor some resentment, but I don't. Because she was 3. So when the topic came up, my aunt confirmed that, yeah, she confessed to me, later, the next day, that, she's calling again. She confessed to me that, well, she relayed to me that my cousin confessed that I didn't do anything. But the way she handled it, the way my aunt addressed it, was my aunt... That is really fucking bugging me. The way my aunt addressed it is she was covering for my cousin. Like, oh, Don't blame her. Don't have any ill will or resentment towards her. It wasn't her fault. Which I don't. But my aunt didn't apologize for anything she did. My aunt didn't say, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have done this and said that. Maybe I shouldn't have put my hands on you. Maybe I shouldn't have went behind your mother's back to punish you. Maybe I should have told someone. Maybe I should have discussed it more before I went nuclear. Maybe I shouldn't have pressed this idea onto my daughter because I was touched. None of that. None of that. Just, oh yeah, she admitted that you didn't do anything wrong. And that's why I stopped beating the shit out of you. Not because of anything based in reality, but because, her daughter, who she was grooming, went back on her word. Thank Christ. So yeah, I got a fucked up family, and I got some fucked up male-female dynamics in my personal life. Do I hate women? No, I love them. I don't know, maybe. I mean, we're all racist and sexist to a degree. I know that sounds weird and cliche. I'm not some sort of fucking liberal confessing white guilt about, how we're all racist and we all need to make reparations or anything like that. No, I think we all are. I think, my Mexican fucking neighbors and, the black kid I went to school with and my fucking Bosnian friend and my fucking mixed race wife. Yeah, I think we're all fucking a little racist and a little sexist to one degree or another. For better or for worse. More extreme than others. Some more than others. But, has my upbringing and shit affected me? I suppose so, a little bit. But, if you really want to know the God's honest truth, my outlook on things when it comes to race and sexism and ableism and whatnot, the truth is, I've been black-pilled, I think is the term these days. I hate women. And I don't feel bad about that. I would, but I don't, because I hate men just as much. Women aren't special, because men aren't special. Black people aren't fucking special, that's for sure, because white people ain't fucking special. No one is special. Everyone's a piece of shit. My friends, your friends, my family, the girls, the guys, the girls who abused me growing up, and the guys who were never there. Everyone's a piece of fucking shit. So, that's kind of where I'm at. I like to judge people individually, because if you don't, you just go down some weird, bigoted rabbit hole. And then you're just yelling at someone for shit they didn't fucking do, like my aunt. Like my aunt did with me. Anyway, that's the story. This was a bit rougher to talk about than my last one, because of all the dynamics. I wasn't just, caught playing doctor with a kid my age. I was accused of touching not just somebody else, but a family member of mine who I love. And I got the shit beat out of me multiple times. And it was hidden from my mother and the rest of my family. And they got into a fight, a bloody one, and it wasn't fun. And my aunt never apologized, and and the only way I could deal with it is talk about it in video format like this. In my therapy in the past, I don't think I've talked about this. This never really came up, and every time I do mention it, I laugh about it, and I tell it in story form. I tell most things in story form, like, hey, this one time, man, can you believe it? Holy shit. That's kind of my style, but it's It's just not in me to sit down and talk and cope and cry about shit. But this has been therapeutic. And I've been thinking as I've been talking. And I tried to confront my aunt not too long ago, and I wasn't very satisfied with that outcome. She took no responsibility whatsoever. I've talked to her since then. She's called me, and she wanted to go for another walk. I told her sure. I don't plan on bringing anything up again. She's an old woman now, and she's not an abusive monster. Listen to me. Fucking Stockholm Syndrome Turbo over here. She's not an abusive monster. She's just a damaged girl who's now almost 60. And her sister's dead. And she feels guilty and doesn't know how to deal with it. And she does weird shit to try to make up for it in her own way. She's been extra nice to me since my mother passed away. And she calls me up and wants to hang out with me and go for walks and stuff like that. And you know, I don't know. I don't need to understand her fully, and I don't need her to understand me fully. I would have liked her to apologize, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't need her to. And I'm not going to bring this shit up. I think I've forgiven her. I've forgiven her. Like I said, I don't view her as this abusive monster. I think she's just damaged goods, and I feel sad. And so, you know, I guess I'll continue to be there for her, even though my patience has been running dry. I'm tired of always going through some shit. I'm tired of her not inviting me places. I'm tired of her talking shit behind my back. I'm tired of her not fucking apologizing when I fucking bring something up that's important to me. I'm tired of her fucking reaming into me about how my taste in music sucks because she's mad that her daughter left and she wishes I left the party instead of her daughter. I don't know. I'm tired of her bullshit, though. I can't be compassionate 100% of the time. I can't always be understanding and always be defending her and always looking out for her. I gotta look out for me and do what's right for me, and I'm gotta be honest, I'm getting fucking tired of her shit. And I can't say anything to her. If you sat and listened to everything I've said in my last video about the abuse and this video about the abuse, I expect you've kind of got a vague picture of what she's like. And I imagine it's not that great of a picture. But you know I can't really talk to a person like this. I gotta find workarounds. But I am getting tired of her shit. I don't have much family left. She's fucking old. And she's the only one taking care of my grandmother. I don't really know what to do. I guess take it day by day. Answer her fucking phone calls. Go on a fucking walk with her when she needs a moment to herself or wants to talk with someone. Don't bring up any heavy fucking issues that she can't fucking cope with, because then she'll just cry. And that's what she does too. Like, if I've confronted her on other things, like small bean shit. Like, why did you say this to so-and-so? And she bawls, I'm sorry. Like, she cannot fucking cope. So, I don't know. I guess I should talk to my wife about this. See what she thinks. I don't know. I don't need my fucking wife of fucking 15 years. Now, we've been married for about 4 or 5 years, but, you know, we've been together for 15 years now. I don't need her fucking, like... We got plans to fuck. We got plans to fucking fuck when she comes back home from work. Today. We made a plan and everything. She's all excited. She's hydrating. I'm hydrating. We got fucking business. I don't need her fucking coming home and fucking I don't need to be ruining the mood by fucking having her fucking listen to all this shit, you know? I don't know. I can't ever find the good time to say anything. I can't ever say what I want to say. I can't ever find the fucking right way to do things. So that's why I'm talking on a video to a grand total of 10 people at the most. I got shit I gotta think about. But I think this concludes, story time on the subject. Thank you all for listening to me bitch. Means a lot to me. And I'll see you guys in the next video, I guess. Man, this was so depressing. I didn't know it was going to be this depressing. I'll keep it together. Keep it together, though. I'll keep it together. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry about me. Everything's fine. Again, thank you so much for listening. If you like my shit, like my fucking shit. And if you really like it, give me a sub. I just had one of my 12 subs leave the other day. I'm down to 11. Anyway, I got shit to do. You know how it goes. I got games to play, bitches to fuck, drinks to drink. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace the fuck on out. Again, thanks everyone for sticking with me.